Hey there, welcome to another episode of bAw Uncensored. I hope you're well. I hope you're good. As always, we are supremely glad and excited to join you and to be here with you. My name is Larissa, and I am part of a really awesome team. We have Sonia here and we have Rumbi here. Hey, ladies.
Hey.
As you guys know, and for those of you who are here for the very first time, bAw Uncensored is basically a bit of a peek into our conversations, the things that we're thinking about, the conversations that we're having, the DMCs, and those are deep, meaningful conversations that we have depending on the issue. We like to keep it light, but at times, we got to get just slightly deep, but we keep it light too. So definitely subscribe to our YouTube page. Definitely follow us all over social media. Also press that notification button. And we see you guys. We see those of you who are commenting, who are teasing us, who are trying to expose us out here in these streets. Grant, I see you. Leslie, I see you. Benji, I see you. We all see you. And please don't take it personally if I've forgotten your name, but we're definitely seeing the comment and we really appreciate it. It's for you. We're not doing this for ourselves, otherwise we're just chilling in our WhatsApp chat group. So yeah, welcome ladies.
Hey Larry.
How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're right.
We are.
Yeah.
We're alive, got breath in our lungs.
Amen.
I cannot believe it's almost the end of a whole quarter of the year. I cannot believe it.
I know.
I'm not ready. I ain't ready.
I'm ready. I feel like this has just been intense. It's been an intense first quarter. It didn't even give us a chance to, it was like, bam!
What is that? Every month is even more intense,
It's like, it was like 2020 taught you. What more do you want?
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, but speaking of intensity, so what we are going to be talking about is a very interesting concept, an interesting idea. As you know, we're Christian girls, we're church girls sometimes, and there's this whole
Wow.
and there's this whole idea of leaving and cleaving, that you leave your home where you grew up and you cleave to your better half and you go off and create this new life for yourself. If you are African, the whole idea behind leaving and cleaving is not quite a neat idea, because depending on which culture you come from, we can talk about this, ladies, and I know, as you guys know, these ladies are Zimbabwean, I'm Rwandan. So I know generally in some Southern African cultures, the day after your wedding, you and your sisters, depending on how traditional the family that you married into are, you are going to serve your new family for the next couple of days just after your wedding. And so...
Kuperekwa, we call it in Shona. Kuperekwa.
What do you call it?
Kuperekwa.
Okay.
So it's like your sisters or, bridesmaids accompanying you to the new home and helping you, I guess, with being welcomed into the new family, and also you serving the new family, your new family.
At least from what I've understood in our culture, what happens is the day after your wedding, or a couple of days after your wedding, the bride's family ushers her into her new home, depending on the means and resources of your family. They help you with the first 3 months of your new married life. So they send you off with food, they send you off with pots, some send you off with the fridge, some send you off with the whole house, depending on the setup of your family. So guys, please forgive me, to those of you who are watching this, if I have by any way misrepresented my culture. I'm sorry, but you're more than welcome to please share any comments or ideas, and just actually share the details around exactly what those principles are. All of this to say, what we're really trying to show and explore here is that in that context, how can you really leave or cleave, and we were thinking generally the way our families are set up it's not very easy to just you as the two of you go off and create this whole life by yourself, because generally in our African cultures there's an expectation to go home at least once a year, go home twice a year. As a daughter-in-law, depending on how traditional your family is, expect to see you doing and performing certain tasks as a new daughter-in-law in the family. And we were thinking, prior to you even getting married, perhaps the dynamics of our families can make it a bit challenging, I think, if you are trying to carve out maybe something that is not the status quo or as expected. And then that's what we're really going to talk about today. The concept of maybe independence of mind, independence of spirit in what is generally a communal culture Africa-wide, I would say. I think that's one thing we all have in common, is that just the communal culture, the respect, the love, and the pleasing of your community, your family, your parents is very important. So yeah, that's what we're really going to talk about. So ladies, how would you describe perhaps an aspect of your family dynamic that perhaps made it a bit that didn't make it easy for you to perhaps strike out on your own or make your own decisions? Yeah, feel free, anybody go first.
Sonia can go.
So I think something I've sort of seen, and this is a generalization, so please, by all means, know that this is not the standard across the board, but something I've observed, speaking to peers, millennials, that sort of generation, is most of the time, especially in our culture, Southern Africa, most of the time our parents grew up with less. And so they had to work really, really hard to earn a better lifestyle than their parents had. They had opportunities that were opening up for them, education. Well, especially in Zim, I know education was a big deal. It might be different in South Africa. And opportunities for work so that they could move into the suburbs, and take their kids to good schools and give their kids an education and things like that, right? So what this did, I think it instilled some form of fear in our parents, where they felt like that was the path to success. And for their children, they needed to follow that same path to get to their success. And it's almost like a trauma response, because they were so traumatized by what happened with their upbringing. They never wanted to go back to that poverty or to that, And so they didn't really transition with the world, because the world is always changing. And as we've been growing up, it's changed. What success looks like, how to get there, it's different. It's no longer the same narrative. So I think that sort of made it hard to leave and cleave our parents, because they felt like they knew or they know, and it's with good intentions, that this is what is best for you. I don't want you to end up where I came from. And so what happened is they sort of babied you or sort of told you, do this at every step of the way, so that you almost struggled to develop an independent mindset and to carve your own path. And by the time you left, you're a bit of a lost puppy, because there's no one telling you when you're out in the real world, do this, do that. You have to figure it out. So I think that's sort of my take on it and my experience around cleaving.
No, for sure. Ruby?
I mean, she took it all. I think that's pretty much the most, I know in conversations I've had with friends, that's probably the one area that has had a great deal of impact on us as young adults or millennials, as Sonia said. It's the idea of leaving and cleaving when it comes to our own choices, making our own decisions. And that also filters into, obviously, career paths and how we, seek to live. And then also it filters in a little bit to kind of marriage, because we are taught that you don't just marry the person, you marry the family. I think it's even in Western culture, it's there, but I think we really emphasize it as Africans. So you'll find that when you are choosing a partner, you're not always just choosing a partner on the basis of, oh, how does this person make me feel? You're definitely thinking about, how will I fit in with the family? How will they, you know, relate to my family? There's also, you know, at least in the Zimbabwean context, classism is a huge thing. So you have to think of that, you know, consciously or subconsciously. So that impacts you from having a completely independent decision, from making a completely independent decision around a lot of things. Yeah.
You guys have raised some really interesting points, because just on the whole trauma response, if you were born in the 80s, your parents possibly experienced some kind of war or some kind of civil unrest, either had to leave, had to make really hard decisions at a very young age. I know for both my parents, they had to leave home way before that and make their way in foreign countries. And if you weren't really bright, I mean, you had to get a scholarship. So I know growing up for us, with my siblings and I, high emphasis on excellence. You need to do well at school, top 3 at minimum. You just need to, that was the only point of excelling. And everything was, I don't want to say too controlled, but just everything was very much, it was like a family decision as to, you didn't make a decision by yourself, but you were generally growing up, like, because obviously for our parents, how they got by was through really hard work, academic excellence, a lot of hustling and miracles, because I mean, some of the countries we're from, it's just a whole lot of craziness really happened. But I know, at least for my siblings and I, because my parents, just highly bright people. I don't think we're anywhere near as bright as they are, or have an ounce of their survival skills. So I knew growing up for us, I know they looked at us like, these children, like, they just, why aren't they doing more? Why aren't you, you know, but, and I think this is where a bit of the challenge is, because I think our parents generally came from poverty. Us, then the next generation, we're generally around middle class, so we don't have that survival instinct like they did, because we're not running away. At least in our case, there are other spaces on the continent where we are. We're not necessarily running away from bullets, right? Like, we're not. But segueing into that whole fear thing, right? I know I definitely, what's the word? It seeped into me as I was ending my teenage years, getting into my early 20s. I mean, look, obviously I chose what I wanted to study. I followed my interest points. But when it came to like big life decisions about like where to live and work, that was a full-on conversation for us, you know. And the journey of having to really stand for what I felt would be the best decision for me and my career path. There was a bit of back and forth in our family, and I struggled. I really struggled, because I'm a firstborn, people pleaser. I don't like disagreements with my parents. I want them to be happy and pleased with everything I'm doing. But what I warred with was, I really believe, in my case, staying and working in South Africa was the best option. But let's talk about that, guys. Let's talk about navigating that that principle, right? Honor your father and mother, say in the Bible, but generally in our culture, having the blessing of your parents in every decision that you're making is so important. And fighting with that. I mean, let's talk about that. I mean, if you feel open to sharing that, like how have you navigated that? You know,
I have not. Maybe that's the answer. I don't think I have.
Ruby,
I think
you haven't.
It's something I grapple with quite a lot, is that idea of always in the back of my mind, consciously, subconsciously, what will my parents think, or what will they say, or their opinion. So I think it's very hard to kind of navigate it. And I think culturally, we are not given the permission to not care. It's not a thing. It's not like, do what makes you feel good. It's like, what? Like, what?
What is that? It is
you know, and you know, so much of what we do is tied to, you know, our families and, you know, what will family think? What will they say? How are you representing your family in that context? So everything is so interlinked. So it's a luxury to almost have it's my life attitude. But you almost have to kind of fake it till you make it in some aspects, because then you'll be bogged down forever. Because this is the other thing. I think there's never a finish line of pleasing our families and our parents. There will always be a new benchmark. It's like, oh, I finally did that thing you wanted. And it's like, so why haven't you done X? And it's like, but I was doing Y. You know what I mean? So I think it's something a lot of us will grapple with for a while, which is, you know, getting to that point of understanding that, yes, we are a collective, but trusting that what our parents have, the values that we've grown up with, are enough to hold and carry us in the unconventional paths or ways that we choose to exist, without feeling like we've let down the nation. Because ultimately, it's going to be your life. It's going to be your, yeah. But I'm still grappling. I still grapple with it 100% to this day.
Yeah. Sonia?
No, I mean, I think I've definitely become more free in that area. So I've also really struggled with people pleasing from a very young age. And I think, you know, like Larissa, firstborn, you're told, oh, you're such a good girl, you listen, and look at your sister. So I'm like, okay, I must just do what I'm told, and then I'm celebrated, okay.
And then Rumbi is the rebel. No.
Yeah. And I think for me, and I think what needs to happen for many of us is the bubble needs to be burst in some way. For me, that definitely happened. Because going into varsity, you know, I was chuckling internally when you said you chose your own path in terms of what you studied and stuff, and some of us wasn't necessarily the case. All well-meaning, of course. And so I felt like, you know, I took a longer route to get to where I wanted to go. And when I decided to study life coaching while working part-time, my parents they did not. Mama Doobs, Papa Doobs, if you're watching this is all in love. They didn't understand where I was coming from, right? And for a long time, I grappled with, am I making a mistake? You know, I don't have the stamp of approval, right? But deep within me, I knew, you know, because I knew when I went to study that thing, it was not. It was not what I wanted. And one thing I don't like is feeling restricted. I wanted the freedom. So they were disappointed, especially when I quit my corporate job and didn't tell them, and then they found out because my mom called my old job.
But you're also savage. That was savage. That was some savage
Also,
behavior.
How old was you, for context?
I was like 25, guys. 20.
When you quit your job, you were not 25, girl.
You were not 25.
27, no, sorry, 29.
Girl, you're 30. You were 30. You were 30. You're 35 now. How long ago?
No, I wasn't 30. No, I wasn't 30.
When did you quit your job?
In 2018.
That is 4 years ago. Not even 3.
Yeah, so I was about 32, let's say.
Yeah, you're saying you were 25. I mean,
sorry, guys, I forgot how old I was.
Okay.
Anyway, so I was 32, guys, a grown-ass woman who could have babies and like a whole lives to but it took me that long to get to that point. And you know, that bubble was burst, and my parents were like ridiculously disappointed, and it was a very uncomfortable season, but it was what I needed to stand on my own and say, Sonia, nobody else is gonna live this life for you. When you're sleeping at night, it's not anyone who's gonna be comforting you.
It's gonna be me, myself, and I. That's all I got. And
Exactly.
Yes,
exactly.
Yourself sometimes.
I never lied. So there was that element, and I think also therapy, speaking about external party really helped put in context that and give me the validation I needed that I'm an adult. I can make my own decisions. And breaking away from this notion, especially in Christianity, that your parents are the guardians of your life forever. There's a point where and God becomes your parent.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just embracing those truths and breaking like things that I was always told. And also a wisdom from a friend of mine who said to me, you need to understand your parents won't always understand your whole self. So be okay not sharing everything. That set me free. And I think it also set my parents free. So that's my experience, because you need to break up with your parents. So
but that really segues into that transition, right? Because mind you guys, like, we are kids who are super close to our parents and our siblings. Like, I like, for me, like, I'm literally talking to my brothers every day. I'm talking to my mom every other day. But there's definitely a transition that happens where and I think our parents struggle with it more than we do, which is very interesting, because I find that our parents, I don't know how it is for you guys, but I find that my parents had to really make their own way in the world with very little guidance, like zero. Like, left home, went to boarding school at a really young age, had to like figure and hustle, you know.
And I respect them so much for that, like, literally, really do.
But I find that then they sort of overcompensate in our generation, because they want to be in every single minute decision that you make, you know? And look, it's love. It's really from a place of love, but it's also from a place of fear, you know? I have found that generally that a lot of the time you are managing their fear, and for them, following a certain example or path is a sure way of success, and anything outside that, because they don't know that, they're like, oh, this is wrong, it's not going to work, you know? And look, and I think, I don't know, guys, and please, you guys who are watching, let us know, do you think that there's a difference between men and women? Because I find that for women, we really care, or we're way more expected to do what we are told. We're not expected necessarily to go out and make our way in the world and to just go out and make our own decisions. And obviously there's degrees of tradition entrenched in that, but generally I have found, I don't know how it is for you guys, that at times your family will have way more expectations on your time, on your resources. And when it comes to your brothers, that's been my experience. Oh no, your brother, they don't know how to do it. Do you do it? I'm like, I feel like we're all adults now, though. Like what's up with that? You know? Personal pet peeve. Let's talk about that, right? So firstly, that transition, and then secondly, the boy versus girl thing. I think guys get to do whatever they want.
Yes. That is.
But we may
like full stop.
Yes.
we may also be biased because we are girls. Yeah.
Okay, Grant and your friends, let us know in the comments. Like,
nah, it's facts. It's facts.
My brothers, let me know.
Because honestly, I think that.
We want to hear from you too.
We're held accountable for our brother. Even I'm just like, even from miles away, I'm like, how am I supposed? I mean, what?
He's a grown-ass
continent away.
A whole continent. Like, I'm like, how? Okay. So to answer that question, I think 100% it's different. We're supposed to be more well-behaved, more moldable, if that makes sense. So we're more willing to listen. We don't rock the boat, all that kind of thing. And so unfortunately, I was given a very vocal persona in our family, but I'm also a girl, so that's it's a difficult thing to marry. But yeah, I don't know what the first question was, but to answer your question, I think it's definitely different between girls and boys. Yeah.
Oh, the transition.
Yeah. But I think we've sort of spoken about the transitions.
Yeah.
I guess maybe to round it off, I don't know, guys, do you think the whole concept of freedom is a privileged conversation? Like, just like the fact that we feel like we should have, we should be able to make our own decisions. We shouldn't have to answer to so many people. We should, like, whatever we feel is on our heart, on our minds, or at least even just have the freedom to make a mistake, you know? I know for me, it took me very long to be comfortable with the fact that, Larissa, you have made this decision, not that life is happening to me, but Larissa, you've made this decision. And no matter the outcome, you will be held accountable and you will figure things out because you have made the decision and these are the outcomes, so these are the consequences, both good or bad.
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
Go for it.
I think, you know, like something that I try to encourage in my clients, you know, as a coach is a growth mindset. And some of the most successful people, I think I've mentioned this before, some of the most successful people have a growth mindset. And at the core of a growth mindset is I am responsible for my life. I own my life, what happens to it, the consequences, like I take full responsibility. And I think that looks like responsibility of everything, good and bad. So I definitely think it's just a thing. We just need to be able to own our decision. And it's just hard. It's hard, I guess, as a parent, because for so many years you've told your child, you've molded, guided them. Yeah. So releasing them and trusting that they can do it for themselves is a bit tough. I understand from that perspective, but at some point you just need to let them also make their mistakes, and you know.
But so. I mean, final question: isn't the world really isn't forgiving though? You know, like, is making mistakes a luxury? Because I'm just thinking as a parent.
How many mistakes have your aunties, cousins, like nieces, nephews, life-altering mistakes have they made? I'm just going to leave it at that. But I think I just wanted to add to your question about, is freedom a privilege? It absolutely is a privilege, because when things don't work out, and you can understand why parents want to kind of control, when things don't work out in the African community, there's no social services to pay you on the dole. There's no public housing to take care of you. Family is going to be responsible for you and your mistakes.
That's so true. That's
it's an expensive thing. And there's no such thing almost as retirement for, at least where I come from, there's no retirement. So it's an expensive cost. So how do we mitigate that? I'm going to tell you what to do, because you know what? I'm not trying to take care of you and everybody else that comes with you, or your decisions that you made independently and free. However, on the converse side of that, the cost that comes with being controlled is this desire for freedom that often leads to rebellion. And with rebellion then comes those very same mistakes that your parents are trying to make you avoid. So in essence, what life is trying to show us is that if you force someone to do something, it probably is not going to work out as you wanted it to work out. If you force yourself to do something to be controlled, the result is you're probably not going to be happy, and the negative outcomes are probably going to result anyway. So what do you think?
Either way, I mean,
innovation.
Yes. Nice. I mean, Rumba, you just broke it down, girl. I mean, how can I really? I don't think there's anything more I can add. Look, thank you so much for joining us. I know there's way more that we could talk about. We really want to hear from you, your experiences. We'd definitely love to talk about this more. I think what this is really meant to be is, a realistic conversation about the dynamics of just being an African child when you are trying to strike out into the world and, do things and be bold and still love and honor and respect your family, because that's really something that's really important to you. But I hope that we at least got you thinking about, maybe there's some things you probably need to figure out or work on definitely before you are trying to create a new home. Definitely before you try to create a new home, because from what I hear on the other side, if that ish ain't fixed before, flames on the other side. So just our perspective. We'd love to hear from you more. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.